Here we want to go ahead and use Excel to do some modeling. This example deals with linear modeling, but we can use it for other types as well. Here I have data from 1987 through 2007 related to the box office revenue for in the US. So if I'm going to go ahead and use this data, I usually don't want to use the actual year. I make that my year 0, and then I let my x coordinate be the years since that start year. Rather than individually go and add all those numbers in, I'm going to highlight that whole column, starting with the 0, come up to the top here, and there's this little down arrow, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to add a series or fill the series, linear growth, step 1. Okay, I've got all my numbers in there now. That column is highlighted. That's our X column. Hit Control and highlight the box office revenue column. Okay, now I've got my X and my Y column highlighted, so my computer knows to use those for my data. I'm going to go to Insert, and we've got our charts over here. I like to just go directly to this one that has a bunch of little dots. That's our scatter chart. And if you use the down arrow, you see there are different options. For our purposes, that first one is the best. Okay, so right away it opened up a chart design tab for me, and I can see that if I go down here, I could change the looks of these. I don't want to get too fancy. I'm going to stick with that first default one. I do want to add some other elements to it though, so I'm going to go over here to add chart element, and I want to add in my axis titles, and I want to do more title options. It's going to bring up a sidebar for me, and you see that automatically it will add the X axis title and the Y axis title. You could have also done it by using this little plus sign, but I tend to go to the add chart element at the top. So do what works for you. Down here, I'm going to change this to years since 1987 because that's what our X values are. And then I'm going to click on this one and oops, and delete the title and put in there revenue, and in parentheses in billions. Okay, so now I've got that. I'm going to go ahead and change the title as well, and this is box office revenue 1987. Okay, so we've got that all listed nicely. If you want it to be a little bigger, you can, of course, grab the corner, make it a little bigger. You can change the font, how big each of those are. It's up to you what you want. But the most important thing is we want to add a trend line. We want to see what would model this. It looks kind of linear, so I could click on each of these and right click and then do something, but I'm going to go back up to the top and say I want to add a trend line. It gives me a whole bunch of options. I'm going to go to the bottom one again, so it brings it up on the side. And here now I have this little bar chart looking icon, and that's going to be for formatting my trend line. So you could see we could have chosen an exponential. And if you click on that, you can see it kind of gives you a little bit different look to that. I don't think that's appropriate. Linear is what I want to stick with. But you can see there are various other choices. So if your data looks a little different, then go ahead and choose one that's more appropriate. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see that it has display equation on chart and display the R squared value on the chart. And I click those, and now you can see they showed up on my chart space. Here it is. I think this is a little small and hard to read, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to go back to my home screen and change my font size to, I don't know, 11, make it a little bit easier to work with. Okay, I'm done with formatting stuff. Clear that out. Like I said, you can play around with the options and see what kind of chart looks nice, but you do want to have the labels on there so that somebody who's looking at this can interpret it. Okay, one of the other things you are going to want to do is to use your model to predict. So for predicting, I'm actually going to move my chart over just a little bit here. And I'm going to add another column up here, and I'm going to call this predicted values. Okay, predicted. Let's go ahead and make that predicted values. Well, I can spell. There we go. Okay, and that kind of took up a lot of space. So if you're not familiar with Excel, you can make this actually stay in that same column. If you go up here to the alignment column and you click on this little bottom arrow, we want to wrap text there. There are other ways to do it, but that's how I'm going to do this one. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger so I get the whole predicted on the top. And now, how am I going to get my answers? Well, we have our equation right here. So this is going to be equal 0.299 times, so the asterisk, this value here, so I just click on it, and then plus 3.6972 and hit enter. Okay, now this gives me a value, and I see that over here I didn't have too many decimal places, so if you want to play around with this, again, you can click on it, you can right click on it and go down to format cells. This is another way to do it, and I want to change my number to no more than 3 decimal places, and OK. All right, so now I've got it. And you can see the predicted value was lower than the box office. And also when we look at our chart, we see that the trend line, that regression line, is below the actual blue data point. So that makes sense. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to copy it all the way down one past my given data. Okay, so I can see all the way through how well it matched up. Now let's say I'd want to know what it was for 2020. What would be, or let's go 2019. What would the predicted value be? Well, I'm going to have to add in a new number here. Since 1987, that would be what, 13 and 19, so 32 years. And now it tells me predicted revenue would have been $13.265 billion. Hope that helps. If you have questions, just let me know.